He rushed his sick son to the doctor in anger. But when the pediatrician walked in, it was his ex-fiancée. What she said shattered everything he thought he knew about their past. And the child he thought was safe. Stay with me till the end, because the secret hidden in a letter could destroy a billionaire's empire, or finally set him free. Before we begin this powerful story, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you never miss our deeply moving and life-changing content. If you enjoy stories that touch the heart and inspire the soul, like, share, and help our community grow. This channel is more than just storytelling, it's a journey of emotion, reflection, and moral wisdom. Let's grow, learn, and be inspired together. Millionaire took his son to the doctor angry, and froze when his ex-fiancée walked in as pediatrician. I was never the man who believed in fate.
I believed in data, in decisions, in bottom lines.
But that belief shattered the moment she walked into the room. It all started with my son coughing through the night. Unrelenting, sharp, exhausting. I had a line of specialists on speed dial. My world was made of private jets, towering glass buildings, and executive assistants. But that morning, I had no patience for traffic, nor protocol. I bundled Liam into the car myself.
No chauffeur. No staff.
Just a father, burning with worry and fury at the delay. The clinic receptionist glanced up. Pediatrician was running a few minutes late.
I clenched my jaw. Time was money.
And I had billions at stake.
Just call her, I barked.
I pay enough to not wait.
Then, the door opened. My voice died. My heart stopped. It was her. Elena.
The woman I once promised forever. The woman I left 8 years ago. Without goodbye. Without reason. She stood in her white coat.
Hair pulled back. No makeup.
Eyes that had once held galaxies, now still professional, unreadable. Her gaze flicked from me to Liam.
Something shifted. Softened.
But only for a breath.
Mr. Reed, she said. Her voice calm.
Like I was just another appointment. I forgot how to breathe.
Liam coughed again.
She knelt beside him, her hand steady, voice warm.
Hi there, buddy.
I am Dr. Elena. You will be all right, I promise. He nodded, instantly trusting her. Just like I once did. She examined him gently. Explained the diagnosis in clinical terms.
Bronchitis.
Nothing life-threatening. But I was not listening. I was drowning in the storm behind her calm. The way she avoided my eyes. The way her hand hesitated just a second too long when touching Liam's forehead. The way her lips trembled when she finally said, "You should have told me."
I blinked. What? She stared at me. Then at Liam.
Then back at me. The silence cracked open the earth beneath my feet.
You left me.
But you did not just leave me, did you?
And I realized. She knew. Somehow, she knew. Or worse. Suspected.
Liam looked up at her with curiosity, his small hand gripping mine.
She stepped back. Professional again. Heartbreaking again. Liam will be fine.
Take this prescription.
Monitor his fever. And next time. She paused. Voice catching.
Next time. Do not wait until it is too late. And just like that, she turned to leave.
I stood frozen. A hurricane inside.
She was the one I had run from. The one I had built empires to forget. The one I had betrayed. Because of a truth I could never share.
And now,
she was face to face with the child who carried both our blood. The child she never knew about.
And in her eyes, I saw pain. But not hate. Something else. A question. Maybe even hope.
But I was not ready to answer.
Not yet.
Because the truth was darker than she remembered. And more dangerous than she knew. She closed the door behind her. And I just stood there, gripping Liam's tiny hand, heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. The walls of the clinic suddenly felt too tight.
Too white.
Too full of everything I had buried. Liam tugged at my sleeve. "Daddy, was she mad at you?" I looked down at his round face, so innocent, so trusting. And I felt shame crawl up my spine.
"No, son," I whispered.
She was surprised. That was all I could manage. I could not explain to a 5-year-old the magnitude of what had just happened. I could not tell him that the woman who had just examined him, so tenderly,
might have been, should have been,
his mother. I stepped out into the hallway.
She was gone.
Already behind another closed door. Already putting on the mask of professionalism, pretending nothing had cracked open in that room. But I could not walk away this time.
Not again.
I handed the nurse the prescription, barely heard her words. Then I asked quietly, "Is Dr. Elena married?" She blinked at me, surprised by the question.
No, sir.
She never married. That answer hit harder than I expected. I walked to the car with Liam.
Buckle. Engine. Drive.
But my mind was 10 years in the past. The night I walked out of Elena's apartment. The letter I left on her desk.
The ring I left behind.
The ultrasound she never saw. She had no idea I already knew she was pregnant. She never knew why I left. And I made sure of that. Because I thought I was protecting her.
From me.
From my family. From the legacy I was born into, and the enemies I had inherited. But now she was back. And my son had met her, without knowing what she truly meant.
Or what she had lost.
That night, after putting Liam to bed, I sat at my desk, in the silence of my billion-dollar penthouse. I opened the drawer where I had locked away the one thing I never dared to destroy.
A photograph. Elena. Smiling.
In a garden filled with lavender. Back when we still believed the world was kind. I touched the edge of the photo. And for the first time in years, I allowed myself to ache. But ache was not enough now. Truth had to rise. She deserved to know. But I also knew this. Once I opened the door to the past, I could never close it again. And the truth was not just about love. It was about blood. It was about betrayal. And a secret will that could destroy everything. I picked up my phone. I hesitated. Then I typed, "Elena, I need to talk to you." Alone. But I could not send it. Not yet. Because there was something I needed to check first. Something from the past I was afraid to face. A letter my father once wrote, before he died. One that mentioned her name. And one that, until now, I never had the courage to read. I unlocked the safe behind the bookshelf. The code had not changed in 5 years. 1-9-0-7, the year my family empire was founded. Inside were papers I had avoided like ghosts.
Contracts. Wills.
Blood-stained history dressed in legal ink. And at the very back,
an envelope.
Yellowed, sealed with the old family crest. My father's handwriting, still precise.
To my son, Michael Reed.
Open only when you are ready to choose between love and legacy. I remembered the night he handed it to me. Eyes dim with sickness.
Voice tired. But his words burned.
Your life will not belong to you unless you fight for it. Back then, I thought he meant the boardroom. The billion-dollar inheritance. The family's name carved into steel towers and hedge fund portfolios. I never imagined. He was warning me about her. My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside, a single letter, written in my father's sharp, unapologetic tone. Michael, if you are reading this, then you have come to the edge. The edge I once stood on, and fell from. I lost the woman I loved because I chose power. I forced your mother to marry me because I needed her bloodline. I destroyed a man who dared to love her before me. And for that, she never loved me back. Not truly. You were my redemption. But I fear I passed the curse on to you. There was a pause in the handwriting. A smudge, almost like a tear had fallen. I know about Elena. I knew the moment I saw you smile after meeting her. I investigated her background. She was honest. Kind. Humble. Brilliant. The kind of woman who could tear down empires, not with destruction, but with truth. And that terrified the board. They threatened you, Michael. They threatened her. That is why I intervened. I told you to leave her. I told you she was a weakness. But now I know. She was your strength. And the child she carried, will either end this family's curse, or be crushed by it. If you ever find the courage to love again, Michael, do not let power come before it. I stared at the letter. My throat was dry. My heart was a war zone. He had known. He had known everything. And he had made me believe walking away was my choice. But it had all been orchestrated. Like every part of my life. Like every board vote. Every arranged engagement. Every deal signed in rooms with no windows. Liam's soft cough from the next room pulled me back to the present. I looked at my reflection in the glass. Not a billionaire. Not a CEO. Just a man. A father. A broken heart, still beating. I stood up. Walked to Liam's room. He was sleeping, curled up with the toy bear Elena had handed him in the clinic. I knelt beside him. Tears burned behind my eyes.
I am sorry, buddy, I whispered. For everything.
Then slowly, I pulled out my phone.
Typed again. Elena, I read something tonight.
Something I should have read long ago.
Please. Let me explain. For your sake. For his. I hit send. And this time, I did not hesitate. But as I stood, my phone buzzed. It was not her. It was a blocked number.
One I had not seen in years. And the message chilled my blood. You opened the letter. That was a mistake.
We warned you once.
This time, the cost will be real.
I froze.
The past was not done with me yet. And someone else knew about Elena. I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over the screen. But I knew better than to reply. This was not a bluff.
Not from them.
The we in that message. They were not board members. They were puppeteers, the faceless syndicate behind my family's throne. Men who never showed up in photographs. Men whose names were never printed on contracts.
But their reach was everywhere.
They had buried secrets deeper than the roots of our wealth.
And I had just unearthed one.
I turned off the lights in Liam's room.
Stood in the shadows.
Watched him sleep, peaceful and unaware of the storm rising around him.
He looked so much like her when he dreamed. Same lips. Same tilt of the chin.
Same quiet courage. They would come for that. If I did not act fast, they would silence the past before it could speak.
My phone buzzed again. This time, it was her. Elena.
I do not know what to say. I did not expect this. But I am listening.
Tomorrow. 10 a.m. My clinic. Do not be late. My heart pounded.
But I replied simply.
I will be there.
I stayed up the entire night. I read every document in that safe. Every letter my father had written in secrecy. Every threat he had endured for trying to protect us. He had made mistakes. But maybe, just maybe, he had died trying to make things right. At sunrise, I stood on the balcony of my penthouse, watching the city blink awake. From up here, the world looked small. But the weight on my shoulders, it never did. At exactly 9 a.m., I dressed Liam in his favorite sweater, packed his bag with books and snacks, told the housekeeper to keep him inside, and to answer the door for no one. Only me, I said firmly.
No one else.
Not even security. She nodded, sensing the change in my tone. Before I left, I looked at Liam one last time. He smiled up at me. Will you bring me chocolate, Daddy?
I nodded, throat tight. Yes. The biggest one.
Then I stepped out into the autumn morning. Each leaf on the pavement seemed to crack louder than it should. Every passerby looked like a threat. Every black car parked too long. A warning. I reached the clinic 5 minutes early. Waited in the lobby, heart in my throat.
Then her office door opened.
Elena will see you now, the receptionist said.
I walked in.
She stood behind the desk, arms crossed, expression unreadable.
But her eyes.
Her eyes held a storm of questions. I closed the door behind me. I owe you everything, I began.
She did not speak. So I kept going.
I never wanted to leave.
They forced my hand.
They who? She asked, voice trembling. Michael, who are you really?
And I knew.
If I told her the truth, it would put her in danger.
But if I did not,
I would lose her again.
Forever.
I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the letter. This, I said, placing it on her desk. This is the beginning. But not the whole story.
She looked down. Then up.
Her voice was barely a whisper.
Is he mine?
I looked her straight in the eyes.
And I said.
Yes, I said, my voice breaking.
He is yours.
He always has been.
Elena's breath caught. Her lips parted, but no words came. Only silence.
A silence that screamed louder than anything I had ever heard.
She took a step back.
Her hands trembled, resting on the edge of her desk as if the truth had shaken the ground beneath her feet. You knew I was pregnant, she finally said.
Not a question. A quiet accusation. A wound reopened. I nodded.
Shame carved its way through me like cold steel. I knew the moment you showed me that smile after the conference. I knew because your hand kept drifting to your stomach when you thought I was not looking. Elena's eyes filled with tears.
But she blinked them away. Strong.
Always stronger than I ever deserved.
Why? She asked.
Why would you walk away from that?
From me? From him. I took a breath. Each word a blade.
My father told me they would destroy you. Not just your career.
Your name. Your life. He had seen it before.
What they do to women who get too close to power without permission.
They, she whispered. The board.
The council behind our family's empire. People who fund politicians, bury scandals, manipulate the world from shadows. Elena shook her head. This sounds like a bad movie, Michael. You think I would not have fought with you? That I was weak?
No, I said quickly.
You were everything I was not strong enough to protect.
Her expression hardened.
I never needed protection, Michael. I needed truth. I needed you. Her words hit like thunder in a hollow sky. I thought I was saving you, I said.
She looked away.
Then down at the letter still lying unopened on the desk. Then back at me.
And Liam? She asked.
How did you raise him alone?
Who else knows? I hesitated. She caught it.
Michael, who else knows about Liam?
I closed my eyes.
I kept him out of every system. No birth certificate in my name.
No school with my contacts.
Only a small circle knew.
But
now someone sent you a message, she finished. I met her gaze.
And nodded. I think they know. And if they do,
they will come for you.
Or him.
To keep the past buried. Elena sat down slowly. Her hands gripped the arms of her chair.
But her voice. It steadied. Then we will not run, Michael. We will fight. But I need to see him.
I need to see my son.
My chest tightened.
I will bring him to you. But there is more. Before you see him, you need to know everything. I pulled out a second envelope from my coat.
It was smaller. Older.
The handwriting not my father's, but my mother's. And what lay inside was the one secret even my father feared to write down. Elena stared at the second envelope. Her eyes narrowed. She recognized the delicate, slanted handwriting. Your mother? She asked, her voice a whisper.
I nodded.
She gave this to me a week before she died, I said quietly. She made me swear not to open it until I had a reason to believe the past would repeat itself. And now you believe it will, Elena said, her gaze fixed on the envelope.
Not with fear.
With the focused calm of someone who had seen pain and refused to be ruled by it. I slid the envelope across the desk. She took it with hesitant fingers. Her thumb traced the faded ink on the flap.
Then she opened it.
Inside, a single piece of parchment. Folded once, soft from time, fragile like memory. She unfolded it slowly. Her eyes scanned the page.
Line by line.
And as she read, the color drained from her face.
Elena? I asked. My chest tightened. She looked up at me.
A tear escaped, trailing silently down her cheek. This changes everything, she whispered. What does it say? She handed it to me, her hands now trembling. I read the first lines. My breath caught halfway through. Michael. If you are reading this, it means the shadow that chased me has turned toward you. I stayed silent for years to protect you. But the truth must be known before it becomes your son's curse, too. I read on. You were not the only child born into this legacy.
You had a twin. A sister. Taken at birth. Hidden.
The board feared the prophecy, that a daughter born of the Reed bloodline would inherit not just power,
but conscience.
They could not allow it. So they erased her. I tried to find her.
I failed.
But if you ever meet a woman who sees through your walls, who tames your fire, who dares to fight what others fear, you may have already met her. And if that woman is Elena, then she is more than your redemption. She is the key to freeing everything our name has imprisoned. The letter dropped from my fingers. Silence crushed the room. Elena sat frozen across from me. Her eyes, those same eyes Liam carried, locked with mine. I do not understand, she said, voice cracking. What does this mean? I shook my head slowly, fighting to keep my voice steady. It means, you may be more connected to me than we ever imagined.
She stood up, paced, hands in her hair, breath short.
Emotions spiraling between disbelief and horror. You think I am your sister? She asked, half whisper, half scream.
No, I said quickly. No, Elena.
I do not believe it. This is what they want us to believe.
To keep us apart.
To poison what is pure.
She stared at me.
Tears now freely falling. But what if it is true? What if Liam? I rushed forward, taking her hands in mine. I will find the truth. I swear to you. I will burn every archive. I will question every lie. I will destroy whatever they built to keep us from knowing. Elena collapsed into my arms. And for the first time since the day I left her,
She held on.
no anger,
No blame.
just a desperate, aching need to believe.
And as I held her,
I knew one thing for certain. This story was never just about betrayal, or business, or broken hearts.
it was about blood.
And blood always left a trail.
We would follow it.
No matter where it led. Because Liam deserved the truth. And love deserved its chance. The storm that began with a cough in the night ended with truth roaring like thunder through every corner of our lives. In the weeks that followed, Elena and I searched together, side by side, no longer bound by fear, but by the need to give our son the truth he deserved. We uncovered documents buried beneath decades of deceit,
DNA reports forged.
medical records hidden, a trail of lies designed to sever love from legacy. And in the ashes of those lies, we found clarity. Elena was not my sister. The board's manipulation had gone too far. They fabricated the myth, planted the letter, all to keep me from reclaiming what they feared most. A life not controlled by power, but guided by love. And when the truth finally stood,
Unshaken.
Elena held Liam in her arms, tears in her eyes,
And whispered, I lost years.
but I will not lose another day.
I watched her. The woman I once left behind.
Now the woman standing stronger than ever before, healing not only herself,
But me. We rebuilt. Not an empire.
but a family. I stepped away from the boardroom, past the empire to those still hungry for its cold power.
And instead,
I built something warmer,
a foundation.
named after my mother, dedicated to protecting women and children from those invisible chains the world never speaks of.
And in every city we touched, I told our story. Not the one written in wealth, but the one written in worth.
Moral of the story: sometimes, the hardest truth to face is the truth we bury beneath ambition. But when we finally dig deep enough, through betrayal, fear, and regret, we find the only thing that truly lasts.
Love. Not the perfect kind.
But the kind that forgives. The kind that rebuilds. The kind that rises after everything else has fallen. If you have love in your life,
Protect it. Fight for it.
tell the truth before it is too late. Because empires may rise and fall,
But the people we love
are the only legacy worth leaving behind. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share it, comment below, and let someone know. You are never alone.